I feel like every day leading up to holiday 2020 and the PlayStation 5's release, we're gonna hear some new nuggets of information about the PS5, or at least some form of speculation by somebody that's relatively high up, whether it be a developer, a publisher, a notable name in the gaming industry, whatever the case may be. However, an insider recently claimed that the PlayStation 5 is not just about the future, but also about the past, and that is one of the integral focuses of the PS5. And that's interesting because Sony made the claim recently, or they just flat out said that they're not ready to confirm full backwards compatibility, but we'll take a look at that, as it is some interesting information. Also, CyberPunk 2077 is one game that's gonna come out before the PS5. Maybe it'll see a PS5 release, but one interesting note about that game is how is the DLC going to be handled? Well, it'll probably replicate The Witcher 3's model, and if you're unfamiliar with that, I'll go over that. Call of Duty Modern Warfare has got an official release time for its digital version, and it is going to be a little bit earlier than maybe you expect, so we'll cover that at the end of this video. But first up, everybody and their mother seems to be gearing up for the release of the PlayStation 5. So much speculation, so much hype at this point. We've got some concrete information as well. We don't have an idea of some of the specifics, however, a launch lineup, backwards compatibility, and that's a very interesting note because I think everybody wants some form of backwards compatibility. At the very least, we gotta be able to play the majority, if not all, of our PlayStation 4 games on the PS5. Ideally, I would like to play PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 1 games as well, but I'm a little bit more skeptical on if that's actually gonna be happening. Well, on Waypoint Radio's latest podcast, Patrick Klepek said, quote, "Everything I've heard about the PS5, this is going back full 2 years now, has been a huge emphasis on history and that it's going to be the sort of thing where it's not just about the future but also about the past, and that means your ability to play lots of those games." That was said around the 56-minute mark of the podcast. He then goes on to link this to statements to the numerous rumors of a Demon's Souls remake, which at this point, many, myself included, are speculated that is being headed by Bluepoint Games. Bluepoint Games, if you guys are unaware, is the studio that is famous for remaking and remastering a lot of games. Most recently, they did the excellent Shadow of the Colossus remake. We'll have to wait until 2020 until we get some clarity on all of this information. However, if history is going to be a big focal point of the PlayStation 5, I really think they should go with full backwards compatibility. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case, however. If the PS5 is going to be able to read like PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 discs, that might be asking a little bit much, but if they do really want to go all in on PlayStation Now as a service, how about we get PS1 games, PS2 games, PS3 games, a larger library of them, add more PS4 games, make it such a robust service where you've got a litany of game offerings, because at the end of the day, Game Pass is fantastic, and I would say that without a shadow of a doubt that right now Game Pass is way better than PlayStation Now. I just think the game offerings on Game Pass are on another level, but Sony has more potential with PlayStation Now. Look at their back catalog of games, from games on the PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4. If they want to forego, selling exclusives for $60 and throw them all onto PlayStation Now, I don't think we're going to get to that point. Microsoft can do that because their exclusives aren't really anything to write home about compared to Sony's exclusives, but if they're doing that as well, that could be a really big way to establish PlayStation Now. Now, I don't know how bullish they are on making a subscription service the centerpiece of their business model as far as gaming goes, but that is something to think about. And if they are going back to history, I think the biggest way to prioritize history might not necessarily be straight backwards compatibility where discs are being read and PS2 discs are being read, because let's be real, the people that's going to be catered to is very small. I'd love to pop in an old PS2 disc and play it on the PS5. However, if you offer those games through PlayStation Now, if they're directly downloadable, that could be a way that history really is preserved. Alright, moving on from that, the PlayStation 5 is still a long ways away, but CyberPunk 2077 is a little bit closer, and that's arguably the most anticipated game of 2020 at this point. That is a very lofty statement to make, by the way. I can't say that it is the most anticipated without a doubt, because you've got Last of Us Part 2, you've got Final Fantasy VII Remake, you've got Elden Ring, you've got so many games in 2020. 2020 is going to be an absolute insane year for game releases, but many would say that CyberPunk 2077 is leading the pack, and developer CD Projekt Red has already promised that CyberPunk 2077 will be a whole full value game, but after their great support of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, it goes without saying that CyberPunk 2077 is going to be getting a similar level of support. And during an interview with GameSpot, CD Projekt Red spoke on it saying, quote, "The Witcher 3's free DLC with big paid expansions was a good model for us. It worked pretty well for The Witcher 3. I don't see why we wouldn't try to replicate that model with CyberPunk 2077. We're not talking about that yet, but it seems like that would be the smart way to go." Now, if you're unaware of how The Witcher 3 did, so the game game released back in, I believe, May of 2015. Really great from the get-go, a lot of content. If you want to do everything from the base game of The Witcher 3, that takes you a sizable amount of time. However, they also did release a couple of expansions. First, they put out Hearts of Stone, which was $9.99, a reasonably sized expansion. I want to say it's around 10 to 12 hours long. And then they released Blood and Wine, which is an even longer expansion. That was $19.99, but it included more content. You're talking 25, 30 hours of content there if you do want to do everything. And ultimately, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was re-released as a complete edition. That released at $49.99, and it included the base game and both expansions, and eventually, the complete edition was the one that was being regularly discounted, and you can now get that for $15. If that's what they want to do with Cyberpunk 2077, I'm all on board, but there is a little bit of a caveat. Okay, so what I expect is that the base game is going to be released April of 2020. We already know that. $59.99, you're going to get a great experience right out of the gate, and it's going to be quite good. You're probably going to get a paid DLC, you're probably going to get 2 paid DLCs, and then eventually you'll see a re-release, not on current generation platforms, but how about a re-release on next generation platforms with all of the content? Cyberpunk 2077, the definitive edition for PS5, that's the version that's running at 4K, higher frame rates, better visuals, whatever the case may be. That's really the route I think they're gonna go. I think they're really missing out if they don't end up doing that. Now, we don't have a large history to work with. However, CD Projekt Red hasn't been the studio that has re-released their games on other platforms even when it made a lot of sense. I'm talking about games that were released in prior generations. It made all the sense in the world to do a Witcher 2 re-release on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. For whatever reason, they never made that happen. I don't know why. I think after the success of The Witcher 3, if you put out The Witcher 2 and it was priced at $19.99 or even $29.99, hell, you could probably get away with $39.99. It would sell really well on the PS4 and Xbox One. For whatever reason, that never came to fruition, but they are putting Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch. So obviously, they're not opposed to doing re-releases. They're just very selective about what games and what platforms they do. I just think in the case of Cyberpunk 2077, you are absolutely missing out. And if you are going to be releasing DLC, you would think that at some point you would do a complete edition, and it just is completely illogical if you made that complete edition for the PS4 and built it for the PS4 and not the PS5, because if you did that as a complete edition on the PS5, there are many people, myself included, that would double dip on the game on the PS4 and PS5, so that's just a ton of additional revenue. So I don't know why you would want to be missing out on that. That's just my speculation, and that's how I think they're going to be doing things. There's also the rumblings of a multiplayer component to Cyberpunk 2077. So this game is going to be a lot of content and a lot to put together, but given that it's CD Projekt Red, I imagine that it's going to turn out to be pretty freaking great. And lastly, I do want to mention that Call of Duty Modern Warfare's release time for the digital version has been revealed, and it's the same as Call of Duty Black Ops 4 in that it's not going live on October 25th, not even at midnight. It's actually going live on October 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time and 6 p.m. Pacific Time. So if you're picking up Call of Duty Modern Warfare digitally, you can actually play the game a little bit earlier. As far as the excitement level for the game, look, I played the beta and I really enjoyed it. At the end of the day, it is Call of Duty, and if you haven't been completely enamored with Call of Duty in the past, I don't know if Modern Warfare is really going to be winning you over, even though the campaign looks really good, even though they are doing some refinements to the gameplay and the modes available. At the end of the day, the core of the game is Call of Duty, and that is absolutely how it should be, because you much would rather satisfy the consumers that are still on board with Call of Duty rather than push them away and try to attract a new audience. I think satisfying those that have stuck around with you and just creating the best possible Call of Duty experience was imperative rather than trying to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. In the case of Modern Warfare, there obviously has been some controversy with the PlayStation 4 exclusivity content and whatever on that. Obviously, the majority of you guys watching this video are probably playing on the PlayStation 4, so you probably don't care too much about it. A little bit annoying, but nonetheless, it is what it is, and the game will be out October 25th. But again, if you do buy it digitally, you'll have access to play it October 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's going to conclude this video. Again, based on Waypoint Radio's latest podcast, PlayStation 5 is going to have a large emphasis on history. Will that mean full backwards compatibility, or does it mean that PlayStation Now could be a bigger emphasis? I think that's a great way to, honor the past, give players a lot of games to play, and you don't have to go all in and offer like disc reading for PS1 games. I don't know how difficult that is to implement, but that's just my 2 cents on that. As far as DLC goes with Cyberpunk 2077, it'll probably replicate The Witcher 3's model, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare, if you're picking that up on PlayStation 4, it'll be dropping digitally 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.